Welcome back to Chapter 13 of Captain Harold DeMarrero's River Stories. Hey Cap, we left off last story where you left the guy up on the bank. I just want to know about how far was that fellow from the road?
Well, I would guess he was at least 5 miles from the nearest road. But you know, I was really worried because he was a tough guy. And when I got to Memphis, when the boat got to Memphis, I was wondering if he was going to be sitting up there waiting on me, you know, with a baseball bat in his hand. But he was, I says, did you hear from him? Yeah, he come got his check. And I says, well, what did he say? He said, he didn't say anything, he just left. I says, well, I guess he realized he was fired.
Okay, you got another story you want to tell about the first time you was a captain, yeah.
Yeah, it was the same boat. We, after we got back to Memphis, we left on the boat, the Frank Phipps, and we started down the river. We had a job putting piling. I was pushing a little barge that had a steam boiler and everything on it, and it had a pile driver on it, and we would go down and drive piling into the ground for dikes and docks and things on the Mississippi. And so I was pretty proud of the little boat. I spent a lot of time, painted it myself. There was never but a 2-man crew. And every time I made a trip, they had a different deck-end engineer / cook to go with me. And this was another guy named Red. There's a lot of guys named Red out there on the river. But he was the engineer and everything. And we finished off driving piling, was starting back to Memphis, and was coming up the river, and my radio that I usually talked to the office each morning, sometimes each evening, and gave them a position of where I was and what my progress was. So my radio went out, and we was tied up. I could receive on my radio, I just couldn't transmit on it. And I heard my dad's boat coming up the river below us. And I said, well, there's a good chance for me to go out and use the radio and call my office and see my dad at the same time. So we was tied up, had our barge tied off on the bank, and so the engineer and I, we turned the boat, loosened the barge, went out and came around, got on the side of my dad, and my dad knew where I was in the boat that I was on, and he was, the whole crew was aware that I was coming alongside. And his crew tied the boat up. They used the ropes on his boat. Now, I'm a small boat, Frank Phipps, and he's one of the biggest boats on the Mississippi at the time. The L.W. Sweet, pushing for Pure Oil Company, 4 big tanker barges. And so I came in alongside, and his crew came out and tied up my boat, tied my boat up to my dad's boat. And I got on board and tried to get the engineer that was with me to come over on to my dad's boat and have something to eat, because our cooking was sparse for the 2 of us. And but he didn't want to do it. He went down inside the boat into the engine room, was doing something down there. And I went upstairs and was talking on the radio, and I met my dad and went upstairs and met the pilot, Captain Lawrence Keaton. He was the pilot on his own watch. And I got on the radio and I called my office up and was talking to my boss, Mr. Bundy, Pat and Tully, telling him where I was, what I was doing, and he thanked me for calling him and let him know. And while I was talking to him, Captain Keaton says, "Where's that boat?" And we all ran over to the side and looked, and when the time we looked back, all I saw was oil drums and mops and stuff floating on the top of the water. Because it was...
How was you?
Oh, I was around 19 or 20 at the time.
Very first captain's job away from your family.
Yeah, oh yeah. Right. And
you're proud that you've never sank a barge and you never had a bridge.
Right, and I don't think that was my fault. It wasn't my fault that the lines broke and the boat topped around. What happened was that the ropes on the bow broke and the boat started swinging around, but the ones that were on the stern held. And when they did, it just went sideways, and then the current and everything, and it just rolled over and went down. And we was around there 2 or 3 days trying to see if, see if Red made it out of it. I'm sure he didn't, and I was really sad about it because, it was my first captain's job, and it wasn't my fault, but it's still, I was the captain and it sunk. So I felt bad. I really felt bad that Red lost his life. But anyway, when we got to Memphis, I didn't have a job anymore because I didn't have a boat. So I started looking for another job, and I got a good friend of my dad's had quit the river and started his own barge company, small barge company. And basically what he was doing was helping to break the unions by operating non-union boats for these big barge companies. So, but anyway, it was a good place for me to expand my experience. So he called me and offered me this job on working on a boat called the Hellrich, and I was to go up to Wilson Locks, Wilson, Tennessee, and that's back when they used to have the big double lift locks where they would raise you up and down, like 100 feet. And I got on the boat there, the Hellrich, and the guy that was, Dave Carlton was the guy that was the captain on it.
Where was these guys you took their jobs?
Oh, back then there was so much business that they didn't care. They was making so much money and everything, and he was really one of them, one of theirs that, got off and got his own company going. So they didn't bother him too much because he really wasn't any competition. All he was doing was just very small amount of business, for a cheap price. But anyway, I got this job on the Hellrich, and I really wanted to make it good, and I got on at Wilson Lock, going up to Tennessee, and I'd never been up to Tennessee before, not even one time. And so all I could do was use this, what they call road mapping, look at a map and try to follow the sailing line on the map to go up there. Because I understood, with Tennessee, if it's not flooding, it's like a big lake. So it's nice and easy to run. So anyway, I got on, and the very first night I came on watch at midnight, and I walk upstairs, and Dave Carlton, this guy that was camping on there, he was only a couple of years older than me, and I was like 19 or 20. And he said, "You're right here." I said, "Okay." So he goes down and leaves immediately. I'm up there, total blackness, back before we didn't have radars back then, spotlights, and it wasn't even the arc lights, it was bulb searchlights, and it wasn't very bright. So I was looking at this map, and it showed this turn to the right, and I started going up this turn, and all of a sudden I said, "Man, I'm going awful slow." And what I was doing, he put me on the wrong page of the map. And where I thought was a turn was the yacht harbor, and I ran up and grounded these oil barges, and we was aground for like 3 days, and it was horrible.
Okay, let's wrap this up, Cap. Thanks for watching Volume 13 of Captain Harold DeMarrero's River Stories. Hope you come back.